How to explain challenge in phonics reading to parents. This is a really common situation. A parent feels their child isn't being challenged enough in reading, and you want to explain what's actually going on clearly and confidently. From a parent's point of view, it can look like their child is reading books that feel quite easy, and that naturally raises questions. In phonics, books are matched very carefully to the sounds children have been taught, not just their overall reading ability. So the first thing to explain is that challenge in phonics isn't about moving children onto harder and harder books as quickly as possible. If books are too hard, children often start guessing, skipping words, or losing confidence, and that actually slows progress down. When books are at the right level, children can read accurately, build fluency, and feel successful, and that's what drives real progress. It's also worth remembering that many parents learn to read in a slightly different way, often moving quickly through levels, so this approach can feel unfamiliar at first. So how do we explain this in a way that reassures parents and helps them understand the thinking behind it? A really helpful way to explain it is, we match books to the sounds your child knows so that they can read confidently and independently rather than guessing or struggling. And you can also explain that the challenge comes from how they read the book, not just the difficulty of the words. So things like reading accurately, building fluency, rereading and discussing the text are all ways we can increase the challenge within the same book. And alongside that, additional reading books provide another layer of challenge. These are often books that are mostly decodable, but not as tightly matched to the exact sounds being taught. So children might come across a few unfamiliar or more complex words, which they work out using a combination of phonics knowledge and context. These books are really valuable for building vocabulary, developing comprehension, and helping children think about meaning while still being supported. So they sit alongside the fully decodable phonics books, not instead of them. So it's not about rushing through book bans, it's about building strong, confident readers who can read independently and with understanding. And once parents understand that, they're usually much more reassured. And it's also important to say, occasionally a parent's concern may be valid. You may have a child who can cope with a higher level of reading than the phonics they've been taught so far. Some children are more confident, more fluent, or bring in additional reading experience from outside school. In those cases, you might choose to provide additional reading opportunities alongside the phonics teaching, while still keeping the core phonics progression in place for the whole class. So this isn't about applying a rule rigidly, it's about using professional judgment while keeping the principles of phonics teaching at the centre. And that balance is what leads to the strongest outcomes for children.